U of T Pilates event by Camille Moyano Ona. A University of Toronto student organization called Pulse and Flow will host a 40-minute Pilates exercise event at Heart House open to all U of T students. Pilates is a rehabilitative, low-intensity form of exercise, and it's based on key principles such as breathing, control, concentration, flow, centering, and physical functioning. The primary objective is to be an alternative to stress management mechanisms while staying active and building strength, coordination, and posture. Risk tolerance includes inherent risks that are natural and unavoidable that happen with reasonable safety precautions, whereas non-inherent risks are preventable outcomes. While mild injuries like soreness are expected, the major risk is physical injury beyond normal discomfort that require medical attention. Under people, the first risk can arise by overlooking qualifications and background, resulting in poor instruction, unsafe exercise, and injury risk. The second can arise by bystanders entering the space during the event, creating distraction or possibly going against code of conduct. Under program, the first risk can arise by not communicating with the instructor about expectations and participant abilities, which can lead to a program that's unsuitable for the students. The second can arise by overlooking individual health and physical status, increasing a risk of injury or health-related issues. Without information on health issues, the program cannot be modified to prevent risks. The third risk can arise by not setting restrictions on room capacity, compromising supervision or technique, and collisions. The second major risk is structural hazards. Under facility, poor building maintenance is a risk and it can arise with inadequate illumination, poor ventilation, and blocked exits, as well as heavy fire doors. Under equipment, the risk of collapse or damage can arise from improper installation precautions. The third major risk is slippery and cluttered spaces. Under environment, both risks listed can result in slipping or falling from cluttered spaces, which can arise from poor organization, program layout, and inventory checks. Under facility, the risk can arise from poor cleaning of previous events, which can leave leftover slippery floors, spills, and clutters. Under people, the first risk can arise from the participants' behaviors and their items, for example, open water cups or leaving belongings scattered on the floor. The second risk can arise from the student coordinators and staff not following any expectations or protocols, and the third risk can arise by participants arriving without adequate shoes and clothing, increasing the risk of slipping and tripping. The third risk is property damage, and under environment, this risk can arise from poor supervision leading to unaccounted equipment and its movement off premises leading to theft or loss. Under facility, this risk can arise with absence of proper care in installing and moving Pilates equipment, which are complex in shape and structure. For physical injury, I assigned a 3 under likelihood because the nature of Pilates heightens the risk of injury due to its complexity and physical demanding movements, which can be especially challenging for individuals with pre-existing health conditions. Also, the target populations are students, which leads to a wide range of fitness levels and experience. For consequence, it is assigned a 3 because physical injuries are considered moderate, as they can involve non-inherent serious strains, sprains, or falls that were preventable in the first place. Some examples are improper technique, high-risk movements, or equipment misuse or malfunction. These injuries may require medical attention or physiotherapy and can lead to program disruption or restrictions. Under structural hazards, I assigned a 2 for likelihood because this event is within U of T premises, which already have regular maintenance and safety oversight. However, given the complexity of Pilates equipment, issues such as loose bolts, worn parts, or improper setup could occur at some point, and these hazards can lead to instability if the maintenance is overlooked. For consequence, I assigned a 3 because if such hazards happen, they could disrupt programming or pose a moderate safety risk. Incidents like damaged doors or unstable equipment may need facility repair, replacement, and continued monitoring, and can temporarily restrict access. For slippery and cluttered spaces, I assigned it a 3 under likelihood because this event can occur at some point due to the various types of items used in Pilates, such as machines, floor mats, weights. There are also water bottles and resistance bands. And with participants moving and stretching, there is a reasonable possibility of clutter or minor spills during the event. I assigned it a 1 for consequence because slips and clutter results in minimal consequences as they rarely cause injury, and these issues can be resolved by quick reorganization and cleanup. For property damage, I assigned it a 3 under likelihood because it can occur due to constant movement of participants and equipment during setup and activity. There is an increased opportunity for accidental contact with sensitive surfaces such as mirrors, walls, or windows, which can result in a scratch or a break. I assigned it a 3 under consequence because the damage can be moderate as there can be the need for repairs or replacements costing a few $100s. So for example, mirror cracks or breakage would require a full replacement and could restrict room access. I first want to highlight our duty of care. Pulse and Flow owes a duty of care to the participants because they are in the organization controlling the environment and ensuring safety standards are met. According to the neighbor principle, the organization must make reasonable and informed decisions to prevent foreseeable harm to those in close proximity. The affirmative duty also applies as staff, event coordinators, and instructors must take action to protect others. Occupier liability is a duty that falls on those who control the property to keep it safe, which extends not only to Pulse and Flow but also U of T. When there is a duty of care, there are standards of care that must be met or can result in negligence. Implementing screening tools such as PAR-Key would control injury and health risks. Its purpose is to direct individuals to seek advice from their doctors or an exercise professional before being physically active. Risk avoidance control measures will take a step further and use PAR-Key results to pre-approve the class and eliminate movements and intensity levels that will lead to harm. Controlling overcrowding can be both written, such as hard house policies on capacities, or unwritten, including common sense, which is shown through instructor judgment. Another control measure depends on whether the instructor is an external contractor or an employee at U of T. The safest option to reduce risk is to employ a U of T affiliated instructor, as this ensures that both the instructor and equipment fall under university oversight, including institutional liability coverage and certifications. Having certified staff or volunteers with identifiable uniforms and clear duties provides an additional preventive control to limit injuries. A control for human behavior and expectations is implementing a code of conduct with expected behaviors. Pulse and Flow, on behalf of U of T, have responsibility for defective equipment under product liability, and so it's important to enforce inspection and safety protocols before, during, and after events through a qualified technician, which will reduce the risk of accidental or negligent defective equipment, which can cause harm. And warning signs will also reduce this risk. It's always important to triple check, therefore the organization would communicate with Hart House facility to ensure plans for adequate response should a hazard or maintenance concern arise, which will limit an exposure to unsafe spaces. Similarly, it's also important to double check their recorded maintenance and cleaning periods to be aware of facility readiness and safety compliance. This control focuses on unobstructed environment and movements, ensuring optimal inventory layout for personal belongings and ensuring spatial organization between individuals and equipment reduces risk of trips or falls over misplaced items. A code of conduct also applies when outlining expectations for behavior around equipment and personal belongings. This would outline the expectation to not move provided equipment and restrict certain belongings such as open drinks, which can cause spills. Organizing meetings with staff to outline expectations regarding spills and other related hazards will reduce the risk of negligence. A control for attire expectations includes outlining expectations on the event information sheet and into the waiver, and this transfers the risk onto the individual themselves. Inventory checks will reduce the risk of theft by keeping track of equipment and the students attending. Ensuring only authorized access to an event also limits theft and loss. In the event of property damage, legal risk transfer is managed through U of T's comprehensive general liability coverage. Since a Pilates session involved a U of T affiliated instructor and takes place in a university-owned facility using university equipment, any property damage or injury risks can be transferred to institutional insurance. The policy defends and indemnifies faculty, staff, and students against claims of property damage or bodily injury. Pulse and flow liability protections includes voluntary assumption of risk, where individuals acknowledge that they understand and accept the inherent and non-inherent risks listed and agree to follow safety precautions. It also includes contributory negligence, which is addressed by having a balance of warning signs and verbal safety reminders, which helps reduce liability if individuals ignore safety instructions. And lastly, insurance coverage, which we discussed in the last slide. For monitoring, inspections will happen before, during, and after the event to ensure all equipment and spaces are safe. We'll use a checklist to check specific parts like bolts, springs, rails, and foot straps, and document findings in a risk register. Any issues will be reported immediately to Hart House staff, and hazards will be isolated, or the event will be paused if necessary. The Pilates instructor or a trained technician will be responsible for these inspections. For risk communication, Pulse and Flow will use a one-on-one verbal discussions before the event to make sure each participant understands their risks and safety expectations. Staff will confirm this by asking participants directly about their understanding of the waiver and safety points. Visual communication will be kept clear and simple with visible signs and readable fonts to avoid information overload. Finally, to reduce interpersonal risks, participants will have private reporting options to share any safety or comfort concerns with organizers.